My name is Rain Whitaker, 29 years old. Golden hour made the reception lawn look like a movie set, linen tables glowing, jazz thinning the air, clinking glasses synced to laughter. For a few hours, the day felt exactly like it was supposed to. James's vows still beating softly under my ribs, my grandmother's hand warm in mine. The small shock of realizing peace can be loud when it finally arrives. I let myself believe Brittany would let it be mine. She was unusually quiet during the ceremony. No eye rolls, no whispered critiques disguised as advice, just a taut smile and a hug that felt like a receipt waiting to be redeemed. I told myself to accept it. I told myself not to look for the trapdoor. It found me anyway. I was mid-laugh with my college roommate when something cold slid down my spine. It hit like a sentence ending with no period, abrupt, undeniable. I gasped and turned. A red slick bled down lace, a spreading bloom across pale ivory silk I'd saved for, altered twice, and breathed in and out of in the mirror until my hands stopped shaking. Brittany stood there with the glass tilted and the kind of smile you wear when you finally fed the hunger nobody sees. Guess you finally earned a spotlight, she said. The garden stilled. You could hear the trees breathe. I looked down at the stain, then up at my sister. The feeling wasn't anger. It was a click, a lock sliding into place I'd been jiggling my whole life. She's just joking, my mother's voice cut across the hush, brittle and bright. And then she laughed. Something in me ended. I didn't cry. I didn't perform rage for a crowd already on its feet. I walked to Brittany, close enough to see the tremor in her mascara, and said quietly, "You're done. Get out." A flicker of confusion crossed her face, the kind little kids get when the toy doesn't make a sound. "Don't make a scene," Mom started, standing like she could still stage manage this into a funny story we'd tell someday. "You can leave too," I told her, my voice steady. "No one's stopping you." Across the table, Nana, my quiet, pie-baking, handwritten Christmas cards Nana, rose with a dignity that made chairs whisper. She stepped to Brittany and slapped her, not a scream slap, a clean, echoing verdict. "You're a disgrace," she said, and returned to her seat with the careful grace of someone who had decided she would never again pretend she hadn't seen what she'd seen. Brittany recoiled, cheeks blazing, eyes wet with outrage rather than shame. She knocked a tray of champagne as she stormed away. Flutes wobbled, fell, and shattered like punctuation. Mom followed, whispering frantic damage control, the way she always did when her favorite fire caught wind. The music returned, halfway, like a band trying to remember the song. Guests hovered at the edges of normal, murmuring, filling plates with something to do with their hands. James found me and pressed his palm over mine. "Do you want to leave?" he asked. I shook my head. "I want to stay," I said, because leaving would have given the moment to them. Staying gave it back to me. We cut the cake. We danced. We smiled for pictures that remembered the light and ignored the bruise. But the night hung wrong, tilted, expectant. Everyone waited for the second shoe. It landed when the lights went out in our hotel room, the gown draped over the tub, red threading down the lace like a warning written in a language I finally understood. I opened my banking app. For 4 years, I had funded the type of emergencies that somehow lasted indefinitely. Shared card, rent top-ups, tuition bridges that never crossed anything, car insurance auto pays, grocery deliveries. When she was too overwhelmed to eat, Mom called it compassion. I called it gravity. Every month I thought I was done orbiting, I found myself circling again. Not tonight. I froze the shared card, canceled the auto pays, unlinked the student expense account I'd opened temporarily when she swore she'd close it herself after midterms. It felt less like revenge and more like turning off a faucet left running in an empty house. The room got quieter. At 8:40 a.m., the alert hit. The student account closed. At 8:43, Mom called. Her voice shook like she'd been running. "What did you do to your sister? She's stranded. She can't get into her dorm. They're saying her card is declined." I cut off the money I shouldn't have been spending, I said. "Actions have consequences." "You're being dramatic," she snapped. "It was a joke. Your dress can be cleaned." In the mirror, the stain wasn't the point. It never had been. "This isn't about a dress," I said, and ended the call. By noon, the family group chat was on fire. Brittany posted screenshots like breaking news. Access denied screens, a blurred photo of her meal card being rejected, a selfie with a duffel in the background, and the caption, "My sister thinks this is funny." Mom typed in all caps about my revenge. Dad's side of the family, who never fully bought into Mom's Protect Britney at All Costs project, started asking questions. I said nothing. I posted a single photo, my gown laid across the hotel bathroom floor, the wine spread like blood. No caption. The chat's rhythm changed. Cousin Rachel. Wait, was that on purpose? Then the links arrived. Guests clips with the unmissable audio. The splash, the line, spotlight, the silence, the slap. Brittany tried misunderstanding in the comments. It was a joke. Rain's always been too sensitive. The crowd turned. A stranger wrote what I didn't need to. If you dump red wine on a bride's dress on purpose, that's not a joke, it's cruelty. I stayed silent. Let the absence of my labor do all the talking. It was strange how quickly the world arranged itself when you stopped rearranging it for other people. By 3 p.m., a text from Marcus, James's cousin, the one in finance. Hey, a heads up. A few weeks ago, I saw a private loan application cross a desk. Your name listed as cosigner. It looked off. Thought you should know before it processes. I went cold. I hadn't co-signed anything. I called the bank, flagged the application, locked my credit. A memory pricked. Brittany's offhand brush of my wallet at a brunch months ago, the accidental photo of my driver's license she once said she needed for that student discount link. Small things that only look small until you lay them side by side and see they spell a plan. That evening, my phone rang from a blocked number. I let it go. It rang again. The third time I answered. Her breathing came fast, the kind that used to make me run to her room when we were girls. I'm stuck, she said, voice breaking into the static of a cry. I can't get into the dorm. The food card. Nothing works. I'm sorry about the dress, I swear it just... Nothing slipped, I said, quiet enough to hear my own heartbeat. You aimed. Silence pooled, then... Are you seriously going to let me get evicted? I'm not letting anything happen, I said. You're meeting your life. After I hung up, we drove to Nana's for tea, because some people hold your hands without making your pain their performance. She didn't ask for the story, didn't prod for details she already knew. She touched my wrist, thumb circling the bone, and said, Some people only understand how much you've given when you take it away. Later that night, I stood over the bathtub and studied the scarlet map on silk. I thought about how many times I'd sponsored peace that never arrived. I thought about how often Mom had said, Don't make a scene, while a scene swallowed me whole. I thought about how every rescue becomes a rule the longer you obey it. I folded the gown carefully and laid it flat. It looked like a body I had finally decided not to carry. On the dresser, my phone pulsed with messages I didn't open. Mom's lectures, cousins' pings, the group chat trying to metabolize a story that didn't need their digestion. I turned the screen face down and felt, for the first time in years, the clean edge of a boundary hold. I knew Brittany would try something next. I just didn't know what shape it would take or how far she'd go to prove there was still a stage. But I also knew this. I would not be the crew in the wings anymore, resetting props after every act, sweeping up glass while the audience clapped. The room was quiet. The faucet was off. And in the silence, a small, fierce relief took a seat right where the fear had been. By morning, the story I refused to tell was already telling itself. The family group chat pinged like a smoke alarm. Screenshot, selfie, plea. Brittany performing a crisis for an audience that had always paid with attention. She posted a cropped image of the dorm lock screen blinking access denied, a blurry photo of the campus cafe reader rejecting her meal card, then a front-facing sob with a duffel artfully tucked into the background. I'm stranded. My sister thinks this is funny. Mom entered the chat in all caps, the way she always did when she wanted volume to pass for authority. You went too far, Rain. This is cruel. Unfreeze her accounts now. Dad's side, the branch that never quite said yes to Mom's protect Brittany at all costs gospel, didn't defend me. They asked questions. What happened at the reception? Why was the dress stained? The chat pulsed. Nobody wanted to be the first to name it. That's when I posted a single photo, no caption. Just the gown spread across the hotel bathroom floor, the red stain blooming like a wound that finally refused to scab over. The tone shifted in one collective inhale. Wait, was that on purpose? My cousin Rachel typed. Then links arrived like subpoenas. Guests had already uploaded clips to their stories without commentary. The phone mics catching everything. The soft jazz, the sudden splash, Britney's line, "Guess you finally earned a spotlight," the silence, and then Nana's slap ringing like a gavel. You could see Mom's face, pinched and smiling too hard, and the way people stared at their plates to give the moment somewhere to land. Britney tried to pivot. It was a misunderstanding, a joke that got out of hand. Rain always takes things too seriously. The comments turned into undertow. A stranger wrote what my throat was too tired to say. Deliberately dumping wine on a wedding dress isn't a joke. It's cruelty. Another, if your joke needs everyone to ignore a girl's mother laughing at her pain, maybe it isn't a joke. Someone clipped Nana's palm connecting with Britney's cheek and looped it with the caption, "Even Grandma said enough." I said nothing. Silence, it turns out, can be the loudest evidence when you stop furnishing other people's stories with explanations. At 3:08 p.m., Marcus, James's cousin, who reads numbers like weather, texted me. "Hey, might be nothing, but a private loan application crossed my desk a few weeks back with your name listed as cosigner. Something about it felt off. Wanted to flag before it processes." The room swayed without moving. I knew the cadence of Britney's urgent needs, the ones that devoured boundaries and called it just for now. But this one had a different weight. A signature is a mouth you can put words into when the person it belongs to is busy living. I called the bank, gave my name, locked my credit, filed a fraud alert. The rep on the line used a voice that meant she had heard this before and also that she was as tired of hearing it as I was of saying it. When I hung up, the memory clicked into place. That brunch months ago, when Britney accidentally took a photo of my license because she needed the number for an alumni discount. The way her hand brushed my wallet like an apology disguised as a joke. Small moments, excavated, revealing a pattern scored into the wood. The phone rang from the blocked number. I let it go. It rang again. The third time I answered. I didn't have to speak. I could hear her breathing, thin and fast, the sound of a room with no windows. "I'm locked out," she said, voice catching. "The meal card. My phone won't let me." The sob broke. "I didn't mean to ruin your dress. It slipped." "Nothing slipped," I said, not unkindly. "You aimed. A beat. If there was a performance left, she couldn't find it." "Are you seriously going to let me get evicted?" "I'm not letting anything happen," I said. "You're meeting what you built." She inhaled like the phone had taken the air. "Mom says you're punishing me." "I'm stopping," I said. "That's different." When I ended the call, the quiet wasn't triumphant. It was level, like a surface finally free of someone else's spill. I took the long way to Nana's because you can't walk straight into gentleness while your hands are still shaking. Her house smelled like cinnamon and furniture polish. She didn't ask for a replay. She never made hunger of my hurt. She poured tea, tugged my wrist into her palm, and studied the tiny constellation of paint flecks I never managed to scrub off after work. "Some people," she said, as if answering a question I hadn't asked, "only understand how much you've given when you take it away." On the drive home, I rehearsed not an apology, I had none left to give, but a fact. I was done underwriting a life that ate mine. In the garage, James pulled me into his chest with a brief, firm pressure that said, "Present, here, still." "Do you want to post a statement?" he asked. "Or let the videos do it?" "Let the videos do it," I said. My words always became their scaffolding. We ate takeout on the floor, plates balanced on moving boxes left over from a closet purge we'd started months ago and never finished. I watched the chat light and dim like a storm just off the coast. In between pings, I found old photos of Britney and me as girls, matching pajamas, scrunched noses, the paper crowns from some Christmas cracker, and felt that particular ache that comes when memory refuses to edit out what came after. By midnight, the public tide had turned enough that Mom tried a new tack in the family thread. "This has gone far enough. You've made your point." It was the same sentence she'd used my whole life when my pain threatened to interrupt her version of peace. I muted the chat, not because I was angry, but because I was done running a triage unit for people who enjoyed the spectacle of injuries. The next morning, a voicemail waited from a number I didn't know. Hi, Ms. Whitaker. I'm calling from the registrar's office at East Hollow University. We've received an alert regarding a potential fraudulent cosigner on a private loan application. If you could... I called back before the message finished. I answered every question. I sent the bank's fraud case number, the timestamps, the texts. When I hung up, the woman thanked me in a way that sounded like she wished thanks wasn't necessary for this sort of thing. While emails stacked up, I met Nora and Luis, a couple whose kitchen I'd been renovating in evening shifts before the wedding. They stood in the sawdust with mugs, arguing sweetly about backsplash tile, as if their house wasn't halfway to the studs. I like the green, Nora said decisively, then turned to me. You look tired, Rain. Good tired or bad? Necessary tired, I said. Luis chuckled. That's the kind that finishes things. On lunch break, a DM slid into my requests from someone I hadn't seen since sophomore year. Maxine says she saw James at the gym being so sweet to an anxious kid. You married well. It was a nothing message that suddenly meant everything. Love is never 100 speeches. It's one practiced kindness you can witness without binoculars. Back at the shop, James wiped dust from my cheek with his thumb. There's a point, he said softly, where polite becomes complicity. I crossed it years ago, I said. I'm just finally done pretending the view is nice. At 4:27 p.m., Marcus texted again. Loan frozen pending verification. Good call acting fast. Then, after a pause, I'm sorry you even had to. I stared at that line longer than the first one. No one had ever apologized to me for the labor of refusing harm. By evening, small public accounts I didn't follow were posting sober 2-minute breakdowns, wedding disasters, family dynamics, the hazard of jokes that require an entire room to ignore a woman's humiliation to land. I didn't share them. I didn't need cheers from strangers to stabilize. I just watched, quietly grateful that proof sometimes finds its own legs. Mom pivoted in the thread to nostalgia, photos of the lake, sticky children on picnic blankets, the kind of memories people weaponize when present accountability fails. We're a family. Families don't cut each other off. I thought about all the times I had been asked to translate family, as you will absorb what we cannot bear. I typed nothing. Near 9, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Evan. We dated in college. Brittany and me. Sorry to insert myself, but I saw the videos. Years ago, she borrowed $600 and asked me to route it through your Venmo because her accounts were frozen. Said you were helping. I figured you knew. I just wanted you to have the record if you need it. I scrolled back. There it was. A long-forgotten transfer with 3 sparkling emojis in the memo line. Books. It was almost funny. The documentation had been in my pocket the whole time, disguised as generosity. When the house finally went quiet, I stood in the doorway of the closet, looking at the miserable geometry of too many things and not enough letting go. I pulled a box down and started again. Keep, donate, discard. Because sometimes the only way to keep your balance when someone is shaking your history is to carry less of it. Just before midnight, the university emailed a formal acknowledgement of my report. We've initiated an internal review of Ms. Whitaker's financial records and enrollment status. We may reach out for further verification. The words were clinical, but the subtext was warm. You are not crazy, and we believe you. I turned off the lamp and lay beside James in the dark. The day had moved without me needing to push it. Evidence had spoken. Boundaries had held. A part of me braced for the next move. Brittany never stayed still in silence, and Mom hated a story she couldn't narrate. But another part of me, new, tentative, stubborn, trusted that I didn't need to forecast the storm to build a house that could stand in it. Sleep came slow and then all at once. The last thought I remember was not a dread, but a sentence I wanted to stitch into the hem of everything. I can stop. And stopping is not cruelty, it's clarity. Day 3 began quietly, too quietly. No notifications, no new calls, no emails in all caps, just stillness, that deceptive calm that usually comes before a new kind of chaos. I knew better than to trust it. By noon, my phone buzzed. It was Mr. Jacobs, the landlord listed on Brittany's old lease. His voice sounded both tired and wary. Ms. Whitaker, I hate to involve you, he began, but since you were once listed as her emergency contact, I thought you should know. She hasn't paid rent in 2 months, and the notices are being ignored. When I knocked this morning, someone inside screamed that I was harassing them. I'm starting the formal eviction process. I thanked him for letting me know and hung up. I didn't text her. I didn't warn Mom. I just let the clock start ticking. Within hours, everything else followed. Her car insurance lapsed. The email notification we'd once shared when I helped her sign up hit my inbox. Policy suspended, non-payment. The cascade had begun. Brittany didn't post online for 2 days. For her, silence was never surrender. It was strategy. When she resurfaced, it was through Mom's house. She'd posted an old photo of them smiling, captioned, "At least one person in this family hasn't turned her back on me." I saw it. I didn't react. That night, Mom texted me. "You've made your point, Rain. Enough is enough. What are you trying to prove? You're becoming as cruel as you said she was." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I put my phone face down. Mom didn't want peace, she wanted control. And control only works when you keep feeding it. The next morning, James called me from work. His voice was tight, low. She showed up. At first, I thought he meant she called, but no. Brittany had physically shown up at his office building. She stood outside during his lunch hour, makeup smudged, holding a to-go coffee, pretending she was just in the area. "She was waiting for me," he said. "She wanted to talk. I had to tell her to leave." She started raising her voice, asked why I was being cold, why I wouldn't talk sense into you. A manager stepped outside, asked if everything was okay. That's when she finally left. An hour later, my phone pinged. "James humiliated me. He owes me an apology. You're letting your husband turn you against your own blood." I blocked the number. When the next message came through email, I blocked that too. That evening, James sat across from me at the kitchen table, hands clasped. "She's spiraling," he said. "If she keeps pushing people, she's going to hit the ground hard." "She already has," I said quietly. The next morning, a message arrived from Evan, her ex-boyfriend. "We haven't spoken in years, but I saw the wedding video. You deserve to know something. Back when we dated, she borrowed $600 and told me to send it through your Venmo since her accounts were frozen. I thought you knew." I didn't. I checked the records. There it was. Books, 2 years ago. Another small theft tucked under charm. By then, the world had started watching. Someone on Reddit posted a thread. "My sister turned the family against me after a wedding accident. Now she's trying to ruin my life." The writing was unmistakably hers, dramatic, self-pitying, sprinkled with details only she'd know. The thread went viral overnight. She painted herself as the victim of a jealous sister's meltdown. She even attached a cropped photo of my dress to make the stain look smaller. People sympathized at first. Then someone dropped the full, uncut wedding video. The comments flipped fast. "You don't accidentally dump wine on a bride." She deserved that slap. Imagine your own grandmother having to defend the bride from you. Within hours, her post vanished. But it was too late. The screenshots spread across TikTok under hashtags like #FamilyDrama and #WeddingFromHell. A small commentary channel even uploaded a breakdown titled, "Sister Ruins Wedding, Gets Slapped by Grandma, Instant Karma." The next message from Brittany was pure venom. "You turned the internet against me. People are harassing me. Someone sent me my dorm address. Fix this. Tell everyone it was a misunderstanding or I'll show them who you really are." I didn't answer. Instead, I did something else. I called the university. I told them about the forged loan, the unauthorized cosigner, the history of manipulation. The woman on the phone sounded shocked but calm. She thanked me and said, "This isn't the first irregularity we've seen connected to her records." By that afternoon, I got confirmation. Her enrollment was being reviewed. A formal hearing would be held within the week. That night, James and I went out to dinner at a small place downtown, one with no Wi-Fi, no social media, no noise. I wanted to sit somewhere the world couldn't find me. Halfway through dessert, a woman approached our table, late 50s, kind eyes. "Are you Rain?" she asked. I hesitated. "Yes. I'm one of Brittany's professors," she said gently. "I saw the video. I just wanted to tell you, you're not wrong to walk away." Then she smiled, wished us well, and left. I sat there for a long moment, fork frozen midair. The universe has strange timing. By the 6th day, her world wasn't just unraveling, it was collapsing. That morning, my phone buzzed with a chain of texts from an unfamiliar number. "You did this, you've always hated me. You think you're better than me. Please, I'm begging. I'm going to lose everything. I can't afford this hearing." I didn't reply. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Because silence forces people to hear themselves. I knew she was realizing it now, the same way I had years ago, that everything she built on manipulation would eventually crumble under its own weight. But I wasn't ready for the next blow. At noon, James got called into his supervisor's office. Someone had submitted a formal complaint through the company's anonymous hotline, accusing him of emotional misconduct, hinting at domestic abuse. He looked pale when he came home. They said it came from an IP tied to your mom's house. It wasn't just Brittany anymore. Mom had joined the war. The HR department quickly dismissed it after tracing the source, but the damage had already been done. James was shaken. So was I. This isn't a feud anymore, he said quietly. It's a campaign. That was the moment I decided. We were done playing defense. I called our lawyer. Our lawyer, Andrea Bloom, answered on the second ring. Her tone was brisk but steady, like someone used to hearing people call from the edge of a storm. Document everything, she said. Every message, every voicemail, every fabricated complaint. Don't respond directly anymore. Let me. Within hours, she had a plan, a cease and desist drafted, a folder for evidence labeled Whitaker Family Harassment. I forwarded screenshots, timestamps, screenshots of call logs, the false HR complaint summary, everything. Andrea promised to deliver formal warnings to both Brittany and my mother by the end of the week. Once it's official, she said, any further interference becomes actionable. I hung up and stared at the quiet living room. Sunlight striped the floor. Everything looked ordinary, and somehow that felt absurd. How can a home look so peaceful when your own family has declared war? James sat on the couch, elbows on knees. He looked up when I came in. You know what hurts the most? He asked softly. That your mom was part of it. She didn't even try to hide the IP. She's never hidden her loyalties, I said. She just learned how to make cruelty look like care. He rubbed his face. I'm sorry this keeps circling back to you. It's not your apology to make, I said. That evening, I called Dad. I hadn't in weeks. I didn't expect him to answer, but he did, on the second ring, like he'd been waiting. I told him everything. The loan, the forged signature, the online smear, the HR attack. For a long time, he didn't speak. I thought maybe the line had dropped. Then he said something I hadn't heard from him since I was 15. I'm sorry I wasn't there more when you were younger. But I'm here now, and Rain, you're not crazy. They made you the cleanup crew for 20 years. You don't owe them a single thing. I had to swallow hard before answering. Thanks, Dad. After we hung up, I just sat in the dark, the phone still warm in my hand. The next night, Nana called. Her voice trembled with quiet anger. I heard what your mother's saying, she told me. That you set Brittany up, that you're obsessed with control. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. She's rewriting the story again. She's trying to sell guilt to people who stopped buying it years ago, Nana said. They saw the video. They know the truth. Let her talk. It's all she has left. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like gratitude instead of grief. Nana's belief in me felt like a small light left on in a dark house. But the strangest call came the next day. Alina, my childhood best friend, the one who'd quietly stepped back years ago when family drama started to consume everything. Her number flashed on my screen, unexpected. I know it's been a while, she said, but I saw the clips online. I needed to tell you something. What is it? Back in college, she said slowly. Brittany told people you cheated on James. I confronted her about it. She laughed, said it was harmless gossip. I never told you because I thought you already knew. I didn't. My stomach dropped. It wasn't shock. It was recognition. Another piece of a puzzle that had been forming for years. Brittany had been chiseling cracks into my life long before the wedding. Alina sighed. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I thought I was staying out of family business. I see now that silence is its own kind of betrayal. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. It matters. After that call, I sat at my desk staring at the wall, the pattern of light from the blinds cutting across old family photos, my mother smiling at a Christmas dinner, Brittany leaning into the camera like she'd never done a cruel thing in her life. I wondered if Mom ever saw what her loyalty had cost, or if she even cared. By late evening, my inbox pinged. A response from Andrea. Cease and desist letters delivered. Both parties acknowledged receipt. Attached was a PDF of each signature. Brittany's in shaky blue ink, Mom's in a tight, angry scrawl. I closed the laptop and exhaled. It wasn't victory, it was survival on paper. Still, I knew better than to think a single letter could stop a lifetime habit of manipulation. People like them don't just change, they regroup. At 1:13 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number, one text. I need to talk, please. No threats, no insults, just those 4 words. I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure if it was another trap or something different. When I finally set the phone down, my heart was beating faster than it should have been. I didn't respond. Not yet. But deep down, I knew what was coming. It wasn't going to be another attack, another post, another lie. It was going to be the moment Brittany finally realized she couldn't win this war by rewriting it. The only thing left for her to do was surrender. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to watch her do it. The next morning, I found her on the porch. No makeup, no armor, just Brittany, standing there in an oversized hoodie, eyes rimmed red, clutching a small canvas tote like she'd packed the last pieces of her pride inside it. She didn't knock. She just stood there, waiting for me to open the door. James was in the kitchen. When he saw her through the window, he tensed. "Do you want me to stay?" he asked. "No," I said quietly. "If this is going to end, it needs to be between us." He nodded once and slipped down the hall. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The morning was gray, soft, forgiving. For a while, we just sat in silence. I waited for her to start the show, the excuses, the tears. She could turn on and off like a faucet. But none came. Finally, she whispered, "I was jealous." I didn't move, didn't say a word. She looked down at her hands, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "You were right, it wasn't an accident. The wine, the dress. I wanted to ruin something that was perfect because I couldn't stand not being part of it. I thought people would laugh. I thought you'd laugh, but when Nana hit me, I realized no one was laughing anymore. It stopped being funny the second you didn't react." She paused, voice breaking. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. The fake loan, the post, the HR thing. I just thought if I scared you, you'd come running back to fix it all. That's what you always did." Her words hung between us like cold air. "And Mom?" I asked. "She thought she was protecting me," she said, wiping her nose. But really, she was protecting the version of me she created, the one who never had to grow up. I stared at her. For the first time in my life, she looked small. Not in a cruel way, just human. "I lost everything," she said. "My friends, school, my reputation. I don't even blame you. I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry, for all of it." A gust of wind brushed the porch. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. I exhaled slowly. "I forgive you," I said. Her head snapped up. "You... what?" "I forgive you," I repeated. "Not because you earned it, because I need it." She blinked hard, eyes shining. "Does that mean—" "It doesn't mean we're close again," I interrupted gently. "It doesn't mean I'll pay your bills or clean up the next mess. It means I'm done carrying it. I'm letting go of needing to see you punished. That's on you now." She nodded. No arguing, no pleading, just quiet acceptance. Then she stood. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't deserve it, but thank you." She walked down the steps without asking for anything. I didn't stop her. When the door shut behind me, I didn't feel relief. I felt empty, but in a good way, like someone had finally lifted a weight I'd mistaken for part of my body. A week later, a small envelope arrived in the mail. My name written in careful handwriting I hadn't seen since we were kids. Inside was a check for $600. No letter, no explanation, just the check and 5 words scribbled on the envelope. "I'm starting with what I owe." I sat at the table staring at it for a long time. It wasn't redemption, it wasn't even repair, but it was something. That night, James came home early. The kids next door were playing in the yard, their laughter spilling through the windows. He wrapped his arms around me from behind and kissed the top of my head. "She showed up," he said softly. I nodded. "She apologized." He smiled faintly. "You okay?" "I think so," I said. For the first time in years. We went outside and sat on the porch as the sun slipped behind the trees. The world felt quiet again, the kind of quiet that doesn't hide chaos, but replaces it. I thought about everything we'd lost, everything that had burned. And somehow I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt gratitude. Because sometimes destruction is just construction in disguise, the tearing down of a house that was never safe to live in. I looked at James, at the light pooling over his face, and thought about the future. Ordinary mornings, honest laughter, the kind of peace that doesn't need to be performed. Somewhere out there, Brittany was starting over. Maybe for the first time, she was learning how. I whispered, almost to myself, "I hope she builds something real." James turned. What was that? Nothing, I said, smiling. Just letting go. Inside, my phone buzzed with another email from Andrea confirming the case was officially closed. No more harassment. No new reports. Just silence. The good kind this time. I closed my eyes and breathed. For years, I thought closure meant confrontation, that healing would come from making them understand. But now I knew better. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide to have. And sitting there, under the fading light, I realized I finally had mine. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the victim of her story. I was the author of mine.